5 for further updates from the Australian government.
That is our National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman there with the latest in Canberra. Well, the attention is now turning to what Iran's next actions will be. Omar Rahman, who is a fellow at the Middle East Council on Global Affairs, says the Gulf states who have been hit by Iran are working hard to de-escalate the situation.
The attacks on the Gulf states were precisely what those Gulf states had feared in the run-up to this, which is why they were pursuing diplomacy so doggedly, Oman, Qatar, and the rest. And so this was, I think, a worst-case scenario for them. And I think Iran has actually even exceeded what was maybe expected, right? I mean, this is it's a reflection of a very complex dynamic in the region. The U.S. is attacking Iran using, a projection of force from bases that are in the region, from naval assets that are in those waterways. Iran can't retaliate against the U.S. and it doesn't have the projection of force to retaliate against the U.S. directly. So it does it against those bases that are scattered throughout the region, especially among those Gulf states. At the same time, it doesn't want to alienate those states. But it needs to attack the United States somewhere. It needs to retaliate. And so that's what we've seen. But it's gone even beyond that in attacking some civilian infrastructure, a number of those states, and that is extremely alarming. I mean, even the attacks on those bases is seen as a violation of the Gulf states' sovereignty. They're very upset about it. They don't understand it, even though they know why Iran is doing it, or they don't accept it, rather. But this has gone quite a bit farther. So I don't know why the Iranian government is going to those lengths. It might be a sign of desperation based on what's happened over the past day, but we'll see, what that looks like in the days ahead.
Omar, given what you're interpreting here in the escalation of the way that Iran has responded and the impact there on those regional nations, what can we anticipate around that delicate balance in terms of the US and Israeli position and the strategy there, and how those regional countries now which have been drawn in and struck directly, how might they respond?
It's a good question. I don't think they want to directly involve themselves, but they're leaving their options open to join in a military attack or to respond. But they are trying to restrain themselves and be as uninvolved as possible in what the Americans and the Israelis are doing, which is essentially, as your previous guest said, an illegal war internationally. It is even an illegal war in the United States. I mean, the United States was not under imminent threat from Iran. And so, these kind of war powers usually have to go through Congress, and then they can't be taken by the president. So it's even an illegal war from that standpoint. But these Gulf states are trying to minimize the damage. They're trying to de-escalate the situation because for them, they've understood from the beginning that this type of destabilization on their borders really threatens them in numerous ways. It threatens their security. It threatens their economy. And, if there's a political security vacuum that opens up here in Iran, which is a country of over 90 million people, which is massive in size, dwarfs Iraq in size, it can destabilize the whole region for a very long period of time. So I think these states, will try to do what's in their power to de-escalate rather than, add more fuel to the fire by attacking. But at the same time, if they continue to be attacked, they may need to take some measures.
There are so many elements here which lean towards further volatility. But if we can just draw our attention back to what we're understanding, what we can possibly understand of what's happening in Iran based on those actions so far. We obviously have claims that the Supreme Leader has been killed. That is unclear at this stage. What can we anticipate should that be the case?
Yes, there's claims by the Israelis first, and then Donald Trump has gone out on Truth Social, on his social media network, to say that Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has been killed along with others that were around him. I think it's maybe like a scenario like when the Hezbollah leader was assassinated by the Israelis previously, in which he had, a bunch of the generals around him. In any case, we don't fully know, first of all, whether that's confirmed and what it ultimately means. Iran is a large state. This is a regime that's been in power for about 50 years. They've taken measures in the last few months to set succession measures, I think, across a number of different files, not only the Supreme Leader, who himself was very old, frail. Succession had been a topic of discussion within Iran for years now. He's obviously, the ultimate decision maker within this system, but it is very much a system, I don't think, that fully depends on this one man to survive. Now, if, for example, the IRGC forces were to raise the white flag, I think that would change things. But I don't think, we're on the precipice of imminent collapse simply because Ali Khamenei was killed. Again, we don't know the kind of full scope of what happened here and who was killed alongside him. But I think if this regime wants to continue fighting, it can continue fighting. It has the means and the wherewithal to do that. So I think it's still a bit of an open question at this point.
Now let's return to Nick Dole, our correspondent, for further discussion about the steps that we can see unfolding here. As news continues to filter in, Nick, we've also had news that two other senior leaders in Iran have been confirmed dead by Iranian state media. We've got the top advisor to the Supreme Leader, Ali Shamkhani, named as someone who's been killed, and also Revolutionary Guards Commander Mohammad Papour has also been confirmed killed. So two quite significant leaders also in the chain of command, if you like, for the Iranian regime that will make it quite challenging in terms of any form of transition that we'll be seeing.
That's right, and I think it tells us a lot about the success of the United States and Israel's intelligence, because these sorts of attacks were something that Iran, I guess, was hoping may not occur, but would have known that there was a significant chance. As a result, they would have taken extraordinary measures to make sure that not only the Supreme Leader was protected, but also the leaders of the various intelligence services and the Revolutionary Guard. So the fact that Israel and the United States have been able to thwart those defences, both at an intelligence level and at a military level, just tells you, I think, a bit about the level of infiltration that US and Israeli intelligence have in Iran. I think, though, that the fact, again, that Iranian state media is reporting these deaths, they're trying to, I guess, project this image that, yes, although they have suffered some major blows here, of course, a major symbolic blow in Ali Khamenei dying and also senior advisors to him, the regime is saying that we have a plan and we plan to continue. As for what happens over, I guess, the coming weeks or months, though, I think, to some extent it will depend on who takes Ali Khamenei's place. Whether whoever is appointed, it will be some sort of a senior cleric, whether they take a slightly more moderate approach, more conciliatory approach when it comes to things like Iranians' nuclear weapons ambitions, when it comes to things like the ballistic missile capability that the country has. Unless there is some give on those scenarios, many of the existing challenges will remain. We've seen people taking to the streets over the last few years. Obviously, the more recent protests were very much focused on not only the actions of the regime in terms of people's human rights, but also the things that people feel every single day. Inflation is through the roof in Iran. Many people can't afford to eat. The effects of the international community's sanctions against the regime have been felt. And so whoever takes over, certainly from the US's perspective, they would be hoping that that pressure that they have exerted actually pays dividends, and there's a little bit more compromise, perhaps a more open approach when it comes to talking about scaling back nuclear enrichment and perhaps scaling back the ballistic missiles capability as well.
You make some really important points there in terms of the timing of when we're hearing information coming through. We're also hearing that, in fact, the Iranian State News Agency saying that Iran's president, the head of the judiciary and a jurist of the Guardian Council, will be responsible during a transition period now since the death of the Supreme Leader. So one can interpret that, steps are being taken as quickly as possible to ensure that there's no sense of a vacuum, if you like.
Exactly, and a vacuum is exactly what they would want to be avoiding, because As soon as you leave that void, someone will try to fill it. So having a stable transition, projecting this image of strength, and from a military perspective, continuing the attacks. We haven't seen any evidence in the last hour or so, but Iran has been promising that a much more ferocious retaliation can be expected in the coming hours. So we would expect potentially more US military assets in the Gulf, potentially Bahrain, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, maybe Iraq could be targeted. That's if Iran still has a significant missile capability, and we're hearing in the last few hours that many more of their ballistic missile sites have been targeted by Israel. But yeah, from a military point of view, Iran is wanting to, I guess, in tandem with this news of the Supreme Leader's death, continue its retaliation. And I think this is not going to end anytime soon. It's likely days, if not weeks, left of this. All the while, Iran's military capability will be degraded. There's been dozens, probably hundreds of sites hit in the last day or so, and Israel says it has a huge list of targets that it still plans to hit. So that will be a further destabilisation not only to Iran's military capabilities but also to its political and military establishment.
So given that mix of external and potentially internal pressures, if you like, because we have seen significant protests, of course there was also significant crackdowns against people who protested, and clearly, you know, in a period of such heightened volatility, with strikes as well coming towards Iran. Hard to anticipate what might happen on the streets of Iran, but potentially there is those two pressures, those two forces coming into play. Yeah,
look, at the moment we've seen some images on social media of people taking to the streets and celebrating the death of the Supreme Leader. We heard Donald Trump, calling for people to rise up essentially against the regime. But at the moment, we're not seeing any clear signal from within the IRGC or the regime that they would be willing to essentially, change sides and back that sort of uprising. So, and until we see signs of that, I think it will be, it is a big ask of Iranians to take to the streets again en masse, especially while the regime is fighting for its survival.
Nick Dole, thank you.
Thanks.
International travel has been plunged into chaos as major airports and airlines in the region cancel flights. Dubai's international airport, the world's largest for international travel, has suspended all flights until further notice. Emirates and Fly Dubai have temporarily halted operations, while Etihad suspended all departures from Abu Dhabi until later in the evening. Qatar Airways has suspended all flights from Doha. British Airways has cancelled flights to Tel Aviv, Bahrain and Amman. Virgin Australia has confirmed 4 Qatar Airways flights bound for Doha turned around and are on their way back to Australia. Travellers have been left stranded in parts of the world with no knowledge of when flights will resume.
We're not really worried, even though we've heard about the bombings and it's like alarming and all of that. But I think the one thing that I'm worried about is my flight, because I'm supposed to fly back to my home country in 2 days and I'm supposed to be elsewhere. So that is the only thing that I'm worried about. But other than that, it feels like life's just going on as it always has.
Unfortunately, our whole trip from our school canceled it, so we're no longer going to Dubai.
Yep, there's no more Dubai trip in the future for us, unfortunately. Yeah. But I don't think there are going to be many Dubai trips happening very soon.
And then, unfortunately, we still have some students that went there earlier than us, and they're stuck in Dubai, and we don't know when they'll be able to come back home.
In the wake of the Ayatollah's death, celebrations have taken place on the streets of Canberra, with around 200 people gathered outside the Iranian embassy. Reporter Peter Lusted was there amid the euphoria and spoke with the people celebrating.
There's been a party atmosphere here outside the Iran embassy in Canberra. People have been literally dancing in the streets to pumping music. There was a bottle of champagne sprayed. Roses have been handed out, baked goods handed out amongst the squealing and the hugs amongst all these people. There have also been, there's a lot of flags here. You can significantly see that there are a lot of the Iran flags, the lion and the sun flags, that of course was the Iran flag before the 1979 Islamic Revolution. A lot of America, Australian and also some Israeli flags as well. And there have been chants of "Thank you, Mr. Trump," "Thank you, Mr. Netanyahu." Now, we've been talking to a lot of people who are euphoric, so happy about this news that has come out of Iran overnight, and here's some of what they had to say.
We are so excited. Words cannot describe the feeling of the people of Iran. Like we've said, the reason we're celebrating is because this is not a war on Iran. This is a war for the people of Iran. It is rescuing 90 million civilians who have lived under this brutal regime. And today is a day that we can celebrate the death of the leader who oppressed its own people.
You have no idea how many times we came here and chanting, asking for our young, beautiful women is brutally murdered, asking for justice, asking when they leave. Now is the greatest news. Thank you very much, Mr. Trump. Thank you very much, Prime Minister Netanyahu. You did great. Iranian people, thank you. It's still the beginning of the end. It's still, we haven't got the 100% victory, but we almost there. Is victory, as we said, is round the corner. Javid Shah, King Reza Pahlavi.
And I'm very happy standing here and witnessing the Islamic regime is going down and the Khamenei is murdered. I mean, he's killed. That's a good thing. Very great. So happy. I was crying from the happiness since 6 a.m. this morning when I heard the news.
Returning now to developments regarding travel, and flights from Australia to the Middle East region have been cancelled since the US struck Iran and retaliatory strikes began. Our reporter Julia Andre has more from Sydney Airport.
Well, conflict in the Middle East has caused mayhem at airports across the globe, with thousands of flights cancelled. Actually, over 11,000 flights cancelled globally. That's because airspace in large parts of the Middle East has been closed off after those airstrikes overnight. Airspace over Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Israel and Bahrain was virtually empty last night. Qatar Airways has suspended all flights from Doha, and all flights in and out of Dubai have also been cancelled. Here at Sydney Airport, there's a lot of weary, tired and desperate travellers, people hoping to get home after holidays or who are trying to get overseas to see loved ones, and their plans have been cancelled. I just spoke to one woman who's been here overnight. She wasn't given any food or beverage vouchers from the airway that she was flying with. She hasn't been given any accommodation. She hasn't slept since overnight, and just while we were standing here, she just received a text to say her flight tonight has been cancelled, so she's unsure when she's going to make it home. Here's what some other travellers had to say.
I spent over $4,000 on this flight. It's my mother's 90th birthday in 3 days' time. I'm not going to be there now. I can't stay in Australia indefinitely hoping that the war's going to end.
We have no communications from the airline, so we don't know what's happening. So I don't know how long we're going to sleep here.
We've literally come off the plane, so I have no news, I have no updates. What has gone on in Iran? Perhaps you can tell me the news.
I was screening my phone and I saw all the news, and I was like, I'm lucky that would be the last plane.
With the conflict in the Middle East, DFAT has put out a revised warning not to travel to several countries in the Middle East. These include Bahrain, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Lebanon, Syria, the UAE, Yemen and Qatar. And thousands of people are reportedly stranded at Doha and Dubai airports. Of course, they're connection hubs for so many flights across the globe, and at this stage we're just not sure when things will return to normal.
Julia Andre there. And we have more on the ABC News app and on ABC iView. I'm Miriam Korowa. Quick recap though before we go. Iran's state media has now confirmed the supreme leader is dead. The Iranian president and 2 others have been selected to oversee the country's transition period in the wake of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's death. State media has also confirmed 2 other top-level Iranian leaders have been killed. Stay with us here on the ABC News channel. Melissa McKay will be taking you through the latest developments in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Patricia Carvelis. In our fast-moving world, weekdays I'll unpack the latest in politics.
What is he going to offer that my community is asking for?
Our shifting national affairs.
Young people in this country are angry about housing.
And the global events shaping our lives.
We're seeing a rise in white supremacy.
Tough questions. Are we set for a year of pain, Minister? The big issues.
It's not just our communities that are struggling here.
Afternoon briefing, weekdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on ABC News Channel.
Did you tell anyone what happened?
I didn't think there was a story to tell.
From the ABC News documentary team.
Grace Tobin from Australia.
Is more expansive than you had imagined.
How did he manipulate?
They're always protected, never held accountable.
People want vengeance.
Do you know people who have not yet been named?
Yes.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
Diabolical. The Epstein Files. Tomorrow, ABC and iView.
Does it feel like our lives are filled with noise, opinion and division? What if we paused and really listened to each other? In 2026, the ABC will be talking to Australians from all walks of life in a series of national conversations. I'm David Spears. On March 9, I hope you'll join me for the first ABC National Forum, where I'll hear from Jewish Australians about belonging, overcoming hatred and their hopes for a brighter future.
ABC National Forum, March 9, ABC and ABC iView. Get everything you need to know to stay connected.
Best sleepwalking stories.
I've done that.
We cover the big things and small things that help you feel more local. Whether you're in the burbs or the bush, your corner of the world is full of stories that deserve a home. And that home is here on ABC Local Radio.
You can get in touch with me right up until the 8 o'clock news. It is good to be keeping you company.
You're sitting across from the police officer. What did he say?
Je vois 1, 2, voire 3 photos et je ne réalise pas que cette femme puisse être moi. Quand il me mettait dans mes repas, je m'effaçais complètement.
You had to face